about the Broncos and Ashton Jeanty? Or do you want to hear about a New York Jets wrinkle that popped up with the Broncos late this afternoon? Again, we'll do all three, so stay tuned. I'm just going to let Cello dictate the order here.
Yeah, I'll leave the Jets out first. Maybe we use that as a sandwich one.
Okay. It is interesting. I promise you it's interesting.
The most intriguing one, say you didn't know what we're talking about. The most intriguing one would be Ashton Jeanty.
All right, let's begin with Ashton Jeanty then.
Because a lot of people think that's the position of most need for the Denver Broncos coming up in the offseason of 2025. So when you bring up that name, I automatically, my antennas go up and I say, why would Will, a Broncos fan, be talking about Ashton Jeanty?
Okay, well, ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr. dropped his first mock draft of the year earlier today. Now, listen, everyone and their brother does a mock draft, okay? You Google mock draft right now, you can find 700,000 of these things on the internet. But Mel Kiper Jr., and I heard Zach call him this, and I agree, he's the godfather, man. Like, when Mel Kiper does something draft-related, mock draft-related, I think fans listen because you got to give Mel credit. Mel made a big deal about the NFL draft in like the late 80s and early 90s when no one was really paying attention.
He's the pioneer of it, man.
And now the NFL draft's like a holiday. Like it's as big of an event as anything in the offseason calendar across all sports.
I don't know if anyone's ever done a study on his accuracy, and I don't know, what does he get to, like 6, maybe 7 by the time the draft actually shows up?
Yes, today was version 1.0.
As far as different iterations of where he thinks who's going where, and I don't know his success rate, but when you say that you put that name together with Ashton Jeanty, I'm assuming that means he's got the Broncos selecting them even at 20.
Yeah, so I was vigorously scrolling through this thing this morning because I'm like, okay, he's got Travis Hunter going 2. He's got Shedeur Sanders going 3. By the way, we can circle back to that because Kiper has 2 buffs in the top 3. But then you scroll down to the Broncos, and you see Tyler Warren off the board to the Colts in the mid-teens, and you're like, oh, that stinks. And you're going, and I'm like, please don't be a defensive tackle I've never heard of. Like, no disrespect.
Yeah.
But it was kind of disrespect. But I get down to number 20, and there it is. Kiper thinks former Boise State star Ashton Jeanty could fall to the Broncos with the number 20 overall pick. Jeanty, we all know, had a monster year. 2,601 rushing yards, 29 touchdowns, and, of course, finished a close second to CU's Travis Hunter in the Heisman Trophy voting. Only running back in the first round in Mel Kiper's 32 picks, Ashton Jeanty at 20 to Denver. This must get you excited, Marcello.
Yeah, if it's for real. I mean, that was you couldn't give me all the other 19 guys that went ahead of him, but I was assuming that he had to be the first running back taken off the board.
First and only.
Which is crazy to me because I've been trying to make this point, and I think the league's been proving it out that this last year you've seen a big resurgence on the importance of a running back, with Baltimore making the offseason move to go get Derrick Henry, the Eagles going and getting Saquon Barkley last offseason, which, by the way, Mr. Joel Klatt this morning kind of backed up my point about their offensive line.
Oh, did he?
Maybe I'll have to have Dante grab that sound so I can play that for you a little bit.
Take a little victory lap on me.
But even if you look at the Buffalo Bills, the success that they have with their running back room led by James Cook, and the Chiefs for the last couple years, Pacheco's kind of been able to spell them a little bit for that. So even with that resurgence in the importance of the position, only one running back was worthy to go in the first round?
Yeah, it's interesting. You're right. You would think that because COVID kind of threw everything off, right? Like when there was COVID and there was no fans, everyone was pass happy because the counts were easier. There was no risk, home road, whatever.
They weren't calling holding.
No holding, no false starts. It's like, let's just pass it 1,000 times a game. It does feel like the running back's making a comeback, right? And so to your point, you would think that maybe we'll go back to the days where 4 running backs go in the first round, 5 running backs go in the first round. But Kiper is still saying only 1, but that 1 is Jeanty to the Broncos.
And I think it would be a phenomenal move, just given what I didn't watch a ton of Ashton Jeanty. I watched probably more than most because I'm a Rams fan, so I paid attention more to what happened in the Mountain West.
I plugged into him once he was in the same breath as Travis Hunter because I was like, I want to see Travis's competition. I bet some fans felt like they watched more as the season went on.
What are his comps? Because I've heard anything from Marshall Faulk to Saquon-esque.
Well, I'd take Marshall Faulk. I'd take Saquon.
I mean, obviously we're going to take either one of them. the chance that he actually gets to that level may be a little bit more slim, but I want to know what you're getting out of it, because for me, it seemed like he was more of a bruising back. And to what we talked about last night, with Sean Payton, you kind of having that reluctance to just heavily rely on a run game. I mean, there's a reason.
Or commit to just one guy. He likes the committee
right,
thing
and there's
more,
there's
too.
a reason he had to write a reminder on his own play call sheet.
Run it.
Because of that, because he gets pass happy too. So I'd love the move. I think that would change everything if you could get a dominant back and actually make your offensive line go out there and be dominant in the run game and let somebody get into rhythm and have more of a bell cow back.
Can I give you a little bit of what Kuiper wrote about this pick?
Yeah, let's do it.
He said, quote, "Make no mistake, Jeanty is going to go in the first round. He is a top 10 prospect with incredible elusiveness." I'll pause real quick. It's funny, Kuiper calls him a top 10 prospect, but then has him at pick 20. I think that shows you that he's saying that he doesn't buy into the hype necessarily that GMs feel they have to spend premium picks on running backs, right? He continues, "Denver could make a day one splash at the position this year, and an added bonus, Jeanty is a great pass catcher out of the backfield, which would give Knicks another outlet." I got some numbers for you in 2023. Not as much last year, but in 23, Jeanty did have 43 catches for 569 yards and 5 touchdowns as a receiver. So he didn't, again, use that arsenal this much or that much this season, but 43 catches for 569 yards and 5 touchdowns, that proves Kuiper's point. Sure, he can catch the ball out of the backfield too.
I mean, if some of those comparisons are right, is there any way he actually gets to 20 without having the Broncos have to make a move to go up and acquire that player?
Well, I trust Kuiper as much as anyone who does this. And Mel came out with 19 names today that he
How many
thinks will go
quarterbacks
higher.
does he have in the first round? Do you know?
I'll pull it up for you.
Okay,
I'll
yeah.
pull it up for you here. But it is interesting that he has Warren going about 7 picks higher, because that does sort of feed into the what's the larger need for the Broncos. I'd be curious your thoughts. Is it tight end or is it running back?
For me, if it's going to be utilized the way that you kind of envision it to happen, it's running back. Because I think if you can get dominant there, like, listen, man, we knew Saquon was good, but it took him getting to the Eagles and getting to like that offensive line that's been good for a couple years for him to kind of have that MVP style of season. If it was committed to, that's my position, man. I think you could alleviate so much pressure off a still young quarterback in his sophomore season if you had that dominant running back and you utilized him in the play calling, kind of followed suit with what type of player you have.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this because I think tight end has become such a premium position in the NFL. And you look at the Travis Kelce's of the world and the Sam Laportas and the George Kittles. Everyone knows the names who plays
Mark
fantasy
Andrews.
football. Yes, Mark Andrews, despite his fourth quarter on Sunday. But, yeah, a running back may be better to address in the draft and a tight end better via trade or free agency. Because, as many have talked about, the tight end takes longer to develop, so you'd rather just get a plug-and-play veteran than a project. Now, Brock Bowers could have thrown that narrative out the window with how good he was in his rookie year, but in general, that's been the rule. Running backs can come to the league right away out of college, have a lot of success. Tight ends, receivers, take a couple years to develop.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what kind of player you got, though, too. Like to your point, I mean, Brock Bowers, I think everyone thought he was a tremendous talent, and to the point where I think a lot of Broncos fans thought that was going to be the pick this past season and would have been completely fine with it. I think the league's just kind of changed, so you still don't really know. I just say if you're going to get that type of a player, one that can touch the ball that much more, like a good game for a tight end's 7-8 catches?
Yeah, it'd be a great game. I mean, when's the last time the Broncos had a tight end with 7 or 8 catches in a game?
Been a minute.
Julius Thomas?
But if you actually committed to the run game, you could have, that's 20 carries, 20. I mean, I don't know that Sean will ever get that much more over 20, but to impact the game and take some pressure off your quarterback, I'd still go that route.
All right, I've got some answers to your questions here.
Okay.
Do you know how many quarterbacks Kuiper has going in this round 1 mock draft?
I don't.
2.
So it's Shador and then Cam Ward, I'm assuming.
Yes, but the order, he's got Cam Ward going 1 to the Titans, Travis Hunter going 2 to the Browns, and Shador Sanders going 3 to the Giants. But after that, it shows you the difference between last year's QB class and this year's QB class. Last year it was 6, slam dunk first round. This year he's saying only 2 guys worthy of first-round picks. Let me just run through these positions because I think you have issue with Jeanty dropping to 20. You don't see that, right?
Well, not if it's legitimate. Like, listen, a lot of these things. Here's what's crazy about it. When he does this first one, this is pre-combine, pre-workouts at your school,
pre-free agency,
and then
so you don't know needs.
We've seen some workout freaks that have skyrocketed up the draft board. I mean, Aaron Curry, I think, was the dude's name that comes to mind for me. I think he was a linebacker at Wake Forest.
Okay,
I think he was a top 10 pick. Went to Seattle to a defensive-minded coach. Never really worked out, but it wasn't until he had his workout that he kind of shot up the draft board. Who's the dude for the Vernon Gholston for the Jets? Another one. This dude can bench 225 50 times.
How'd that work out?
Didn't work out.
All right, so here are the positions, okay? I'm not going to give you the names. That'll take too long, but positions, okay? 1, quarterback. 2, wide receiver corner. We know that's unique with Travis Hunter. 3, quarterback. 4, outside linebacker. 5, DT. 6, wide receiver. 7, OLB. 8, linebacker. 9, corner. 10, tackle. 11, tackle. 12, wide receiver. 13, safety. 14, tight end. 15, defensive end. 16, guard. 17, linebacker. 18, offensive tackle. 19, safety. 20, running back. So it is, the reason I want to do that exercise is it is a wide variety of positions
There's
that he
a guard
has
in there.
all coming off the board before Ashton Jeanty. Yes, there is a guard going off the board. Tyler Booker from Alabama. He has him projected as going number 16 to the Cardinals.
Wow.
You're laughing at this because you don't think. Just tell me honestly, you don't think Ashton Jeanty is going to be there for the Broncos at 20?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
no.
That's what I was gathering from
And that's why I wanted
your
to know,
mannerisms.
yeah, I mean I'd love it if it was actually feasible. I just don't think he's going to drop to 20. That's a pretty deep drop for that type of player.
He'd huge for the Broncos if he did. I think everyone in Broncos country would be doing celebratory laps around their house if that happened.
Yeah. I mean, it would be phenomenal. I don't think he's going to be there, so I think you'd probably have to move to get him.
All right, I wrote about this at denversports.com. People can check it out. Let's talk about Pat Surtain and this Jets tie here in a minute. But before we get to that, what did you make of not only Shedeur not going 1, but Cam Ward going 1 to the Titans, Travis Hunter going 2 to the Browns, and Shedeur Sanders going 3 to the Giants?
Wow. I don't know that after watching both the players this year, I think if Shedeur has time, he's pretty surgical. I don't know that after his workouts that there's going to be, if he's going to stay within that top 5, maybe. He could drop a little bit. He could actually, further solidify his position as a top 1 or 2. I'd go with Shedeur over Cam. You?
Yeah, I would pick Shedeur Sanders over Cam Ward. And what's another wrinkle to this is the Titans GM came out today, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, we want like a once-in-a-lifetime generational playmaker. Well, who fits that?
Travis
Hunter. So that's the other thing in this is you have the Titans GM on record saying that today. Is there a chance Travis Hunter sneaks to the number 1 pick with the Tennessee Titans, and then the Browns get their choice of Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, probably taking a QB because, let's be honest, we don't know if Deshaun Watson's ever going to play again. That was the other thing that surprised me about this is Travis going 2 to Cleveland, I get, because if you're Cleveland, you just need playmakers, but you kind of desperately need a quarterback if you're the Browns.
Well, and it would also kind of lend to the fact that they'd plan to use him as, a receiver and a corner. Because I don't think you take him, if you're going to make him do just one, then I don't think you take him first overall.
So you think if he goes to Tennessee, that means the Titans, and their GM, again, tipped his hand a little bit today, plans to use him, maybe not as much as Deion did, but in a similar capacity.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think no matter where he goes, that you'd be silly not to. Now, you're not going to do it to the level that he did at CU, but I mean, if say you're in charge, Will,
in Tennessee,
yeah, are you if you make that selection for Travis Hunter, are you wanting him more on the offensive side of the football or on the defensive side of the football?
Do I have to pick, or can I say both?
No, let's say, just pick for the purpose of this discussion.
Well, I don't think of any playmakers when I think of the Tennessee Titans, so I'd put them at wide receiver.
Well, and that's the way you can impact the game a little bit more, right?
Exactly.
If you're a lockdown corner, I mean, listen, Pat Surtain's getting all these accolades, and rightfully so. But a lot of games, you don't even hear his name because when you get that shutdown cornered status, That third of the field is just off limits.
And that's sort of the point of a shutdown corner is you're not
But
supposed
as
to
far
hear
as
their name.
playmaking, the way that you kind of phrased his quote or paraphrased it, it kind of lends to, to me that he's going to use him more offensively.
All right, well, that's Kuiper's mock draft. We'll see. It could change. It could change with the comments coming out of Tennessee today. But Travis Hunter, 2 to the Browns, Shedeur Sanders, 3 to the Giants, and Ashton Jeanty at 20.
Real quick
to
before you
the
move on, though.
Broncos. Yes.
There's only 2 quarterbacks in that first round right now.
Yeah, and he has them going 1 and 3.
By the time he gets to version 5, 6, or 7, how many quarterbacks are in the first round?
You're right, because we do see every year, that guy's a 4th-round quarterback, shoot up to the middle of the first round. I don't know, 3, 4?
Well, I mean, Bo, look at where he was projected.
Yeah, but
If
it's
we
not
would've
going to
gone-
be 6. I think 2024 is shaping up to be historically
No, and I'm not
good.
trying to compare it to that, but at this point last year, Bo Nix wasn't projected as a first-round pick. At the highest, maybe a second round. At this point last year.
A lot can change in 3 months.
Exactly.
Definitely. By the way, I know a lot of people are curious. He does have Tyler Warren going 14 to the Colts. It seems to me that Broncos fans, if they leave the first round, where's the draft this year? I can't
It's in
remember.
Green Bay, isn't it?
Is it Green Bay this year?
I
don't
think
know.
it is.
Dante, could you look that up for us, please? If the Broncos can leave wherever it is that night with Ashton Jeanty or Tyler Warren, I think fans will be stoked. If they leave with like a defensive tackle, it might be a need. I don't think fans are going to be in the mood to party.
For Denver fans?
Yes.
No, I totally agree.
It's Jeanty and Warren. Like, the draft's 3 months away, and we've already zeroed in on 2 targets. Ashton Jeanty and Tyler Warren. Those are the 2 guys fans want to see.
I think, yeah, you're probably right. And then maybe as a C, I'd say linebacker, maybe.
Yeah, but again, no one's jumping up and down on their couch getting a linebacker. It's an offensive league. You're going to jump up and down on your couch for a middle linebacker?
Depends on who it is.
I don't know. You might be on an island on that one. By the way, draft is in
If it
Green
were
Bay.
a Micah Parsons-like player, you wouldn't be excited about that?
I'm not a big enough college football fan to know who the next Micah Parsons is.
Well, you're going to find out over the next 4 months. You're fixing
true.
to find out.
True. Luther Burden III, another wide receiver that I have heard chatted about in Denver, has him going 12 to the Dallas Cowboys, another team that could take Jeanty. All right, did you see this news with Pat Surtain II today? He was named the Pro Football Writers Pro Football Writers of America Defensive Player of the Year. He became just the 4th corner given the PFWA award in 33 seasons, joining Gilmore from New England in 2019, Woodson from the Packers in 2009, and Coach Prime, Deion Sanders with the Niners in 1994. Pretty cool company for Surtain to be in. And this comes from our Andrew Mason at denversports.com. In the 32 previous seasons that the PFWA named a Defensive Player of the Year, 28 of them also earned the official NFL Defensive Player of the Year award, which will be given out at the NFL Honors on February 6th. Basically, Cello, this is a really good omen for Pat Surtain.
28 of how many?
28 of 32 who have won this award have won the big dog. Very good omen for PS2 today that he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year.
What's kind of crazy about this is you and I probably spent more time this season talking about Nick Bonito's possibilities of becoming the Defensive Player of the Year than we did about the very best player on the defense. Because
Bonito made the sexier plays, although PS2's pick 6 against the Raiders was pretty darn sexy.
Yeah.
But everyone remembers what Bonito did against the Browns and what he did against the Colts.
No, I know. I'm not saying he's not worthy of it. He certainly is. I mean, he had the pick also was against Jameis, who the Lord still hasn't delivered him from throwing pick 6s yet.
Yeah, not quite. Keep praying.
But I mean, yeah, if 28 out of 32, you got to like the chances that this is going to be
28 out of 32.
Isn't that what I said?
I thought you said 20.
28 out of 32.
I didn't hear the 8 part. My bad.
Yeah, 28 out of 32. You like the chances that he actually gets that honor, which would be phenomenal for him.
Well, and I think, too, this award is a big one. Don't get me wrong. Fans are going to be more focused on the one that happens in 2 weeks. But generally, these things are indicators, right? And again, the stats back it up. But it's also the company he's keeping. I mean, you're talking about Woodson and Prime, Hall of Famers. Gilmore, probably a Hall of Famer one day. It shows you how hard it is for a cornerback to take this type of award. It's much more common it goes to an edge rusher or something of that ilk.
And you said Dion did it in 94?
with the Niners. He won the PFWA award, and then he won DPOY from the NFL.
Well, pop the champagne. Congrats, Pat.
He's calling it early. He's calling it early. I asked Pat about that at the Broncos locker room cleanout last week, and I said, now that it's over, do you pay attention to it? And he said, and again, I'm paraphrasing more or less, like, yeah, I got nothing else to do. Like,
Who
of
else
course
is
I'm
in the
going to pay
running,
attention.
realistically?
TJ Watt is his number one competition, but TJ Watt did not do much in that bad Steelers losing streak. And I'm not even talking about the playoff game. I'm talking about losing 4 in a row to end the regular season.
Yeah, and I think he missed time, too, this year, in and out a little bit, right, of the lineup. So PS2 played it all. As much as we hadn't talked about it, is he supremely worthy of that accolade? For sure.
And then Trey Hendrickson is the other one from the Cincinnati Bengals.
Right.
It kind of feels like it's those three, but again, the tides are shifting towards Pat Surtain II. And the final piece of Broncos news that came out late this afternoon, the New York Jets are zeroing in on 3 candidates to be their next general manager. They obviously hired Aaron Glenn today. I think a lot of folks would say, hey, you did that a little backwards. You're supposed to hire the GM before you hire the head coach, but it's the Jets, so that's what the Jets are going to do.
I don't know. There's been teams lately that have been having the coach be. I mean, didn't we see that kind of here too?
True. But you look in Jacksonville, they just fired Trent Baalke today because clearly whoever they want to hire as their head coach didn't want to work with Baalke, so they're like, well, you're out.
Yeah, and then that was the marriage between John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. He had a lot of input in who he wanted his GM to be. There's, I think, more and more. I know you said it's backwards, and years gone by, that's the way it always typically has been. But now they're kind of involving that head coach more and more, especially in the interview process, which, to your point, I think is why Baalke finally left. Obviously, all of a sudden, they're like, we had another discussion, and now we don't believe we can work together going forward.
Robert Saleh probably doesn't want to work with you, and that's the guy we want to hire. Anyways, the news here is that Broncos assistant GM Darren Mougey is a finalist. Okay, he's one of 3 guys competing for this Jets job. Got a second interview tomorrow. Listen, you always want folks to move up, right? Like it's a gold star for the Broncos if their assistant GM becomes a GM somewhere else in the league. But I think with a guy like Mougey, who's been with Denver since the 2012 season, assisted John Elway in various roles, is now George Payton's right-hand man. George Payton has made some decisions over the years that have left us baffled. I don't know how comfortable I would feel as a Broncos fan with Mougey, a top sounding board, exiting the building.
Well, it didn't matter when he was there. Those moves were still made. Now, we don't know how much input he had, whether it was positive or negative, like saying, hey, I don't agree with this move, or
don't hire that Nathaniel Hackett guy. He's a buffoon.
Russell Wilson's a slam dunk.
Yeah. That guy's washed, George. Why are we doing this trade?
And I listen, if he gets that opportunity, great. I don't know how much he was relied upon, or if it was like Adam Peters already having success in Washington after that short stint. He had the stint here, and then San Francisco knew that he had success here, with the Broncos. They brought him over to San Francisco, and then he's already in a game away from the Super Bowl over there. So never want to hold anyone back, but I don't know. You could get a better sounding board maybe out of it.
Or Sean might just say, hey, Cody Rager,
you're done.
You're the new assistant GM, his boy from New Orleans. It's just funny to me that the Jets hired Aaron Glenn today. And if you're Darren Mougey, okay, it's a title bump for sure, going from assistant GM to GM. I'm sure it's a huge salary bump going from assistant GM to GM. But the Broncos are just on the up and coming. Do you really want to go be in charge of that dumpster fire in New York?
I think you do.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
because you're the guy that if you finally turn it around, you'll get all the credit. Whereas if you fail, it's like, well, everyone else failed.
Well, listen, you could also look at it like they have the longest playoff drought of anybody. What, they have 14 seasons now?
Yeah, it's bad.
At some point or another on the roulette wheel, you're going to get something to fall your way. I don't know if Aaron Glenn's the right guy for that, but and you still don't know what you're doing at quarterback. So there's a lot of uncertainty that goes with it. But putting yourself in that position, I don't know how you don't take it.
I mean, as Dante says, there's only